Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on personal branding. My name is Evan Cleveland. I am the Director of Programs here at Prospanica, and our host today is going to be Giselle Nunez. She's the author of Take Charge of Your Personal Brand. It's a book you can find on Amazon. We definitely encourage everyone to go check it out. Now, before we begin, I want to remind everybody that coming up on October 30th through November 1st is our annual conference and career expo. Now, if you haven't registered, not a problem. There is still time to go do that. So if you want to register, if you want to learn more about the event, make sure you know what the agenda looks like. Please head to prospanicaconference.org. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us directly at programs@prospanica.org. Again, that email address is programs@prospanica.org. As we are here to talk about personal branding, I wanted to take a moment to speak very briefly about the conference agenda so that as you go through this webinar, you can have the experience in your head and be thinking about networking opportunities at the event. So the first thing to note is that Wednesday, October 30th, that's going to be a day of professional development and networking events. We have breakout sessions starting early at 9:45 a.m. There's a plenary session happening at 1:30, and that evening it's going to conclude with some networking events. So we want to make sure that you know to check these out. Some of these sessions are sponsored by corporate sponsors. So even being in the audience means it's a time for you to think about how your brand is coming across and what the people might be thinking about you. How are you presenting yourself? Because recruiters are paying attention at all moments of the conference. Another note for that is Wednesday, we are encouraging everyone to dress comfortably. Now, typically the conference is business attire, and it will be that way for Thursday and Friday. But on Wednesday, we are encouraging people to wear university gear, Prospanica gear, and this way it's a chance for you to make connections in a different fashion. So the dress code for Wednesday is smart, casual, no shorts, but we do encourage you to wear your university gear. It helps start conversations. Some other things to note is that there are networking opportunities happening throughout the event. This could be during the luncheon on Thursday, the Briante Gala on Thursday night, anytime you're at the hotel or in line at the coffee shop, wherever you might be, you never know when you are going to be on, when you're going to be talking to somebody who might be ready to give you that next exciting opportunity. So think about all of this as we talk today about personal branding. Another couple of items that I wanted to point out, we've made available the Take Charge of Your Brand workbook here in the GoToWebinar platform. So you can download that because we're going to be using it throughout the morning, throughout the webinar. And then finally, if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the chat window and we can address those as we have time for them. Now, finally, without any further delay, I am thrilled to introduce to everyone Giselle Nunez. Take it away, Giselle.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Evan. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are at. And if you're in California and you're in the Bay Area, today is the 30th anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake. So hopefully you don't have to do a duck and cover exercise at work if you're in the Bay Area. Very excited to be with you this morning. Just a little housekeeping first before I introduce myself and also our objectives for this webinar. If you're watching the recorded version of this webinar, or for anyone who may have missed these materials, or you want to find out more, or just re-listen to the webinar, the link of where you can find the recording and also the materials is right on this slide. So hopefully, and actually, I would actually recommend that you listen to the webinar again, just as a reminder of some of the work that we're going to be doing in the next hour and some of the takeaways. And because really, Evan and I are really hoping that you are going to take these takeaways, apply them, work hard in the next few days, and really apply them at the conference in the next 2 weeks, and also after that as well. So, and I will also make myself available to you, and I will tell you how to reach me at the very end as well. If you want to run by your personal brand statement, which is going to be one of your takeaways today, if you want me to review it and provide you with some feedback. So we'll talk about that at the end. But for now, let me tell you a little bit about myself in 3 sentences or less, which is something that you will have to do also by the end of the webinar and or as part of your homework. So again, my name is Giselle Nunez, and I help organizations and individuals communicate their value and achieve success through enduring marketing and personal branding strategies. I'm experienced in leading successful multi-million-dollar marketing and communication campaigns. I provide guidance to my employers that is relevant, data-driven, and results-oriented. I'll tell you why I'm counting the sentences in just a few seconds. That's 2 sentences of who I am and the value that I bring, right? Then I want to share with you that one of my passions through my personal branding workshops, coaching, and book, Take Charge of Your Brand, is to help Latinx, and especially Latinx women, understand how to communicate their value and advocate for themselves by building a strong personal brand. Those 3 sentences are my personal brand statement, and that's what I want you to leave with today. As far as, if you don't remember anything else that we talked about today, this is the takeaway for this webinar that you need to apply for the upcoming Prospanica Conference and Career Expo. And not just at this conference. This really needs to encompass how your personal brand is defined and how you communicate, what your value is, what your strengths are in 3 sentences or less. So we're going to talk about how you can build that and how you can continue that work as well. So with that said, here we are. I'm excited to be with you this morning. And I just want to say also that this is a hands-on webinar. So if you think you're going to be checking your email during this webinar, I am hoping that you closed everything else down and you're going to focus on all the good things that I have to share and where I'm going to ask you to also help participate, because it's going to help you really have a better sense of what the charge is for you if you really want to take on this personal branding journey. And so I'm hoping that journey does begin today. As Evan mentioned, there's 2 handouts, the workbook and the personal brand assessment survey. The workbook we're going to use throughout the webinar. All of these topics and the work in the workbook, it's going to be like drinking through a fire hose, but again, it's going to get you started, and you will now have the tools to help you get on or continue on this personal branding journey and get you prepared for the upcoming conference as well. So here are our objectives. So we're going to incorporate the Take Charge of Your Brand, personal brand strategies of planning, assessment, and expression into your daily action. So we're going to learn how to do that. We're also going to, through the workbook, it's going to ask you a variety of questions that are going to help you better assess where your brand stands today and where you want to take it. Second, we're going to apply these webinar themes to design your personal brand strategy. And I want you to start thinking about what Evan said. So what opportunities are you going to have during the conference to apply the brand strategies that we're going to talk about today, and especially to use your personal brand statement. And then lastly, how can you learn how to become more proactive and confident in managing your personal brand? And that really goes to sometimes the sense that some of us have of that it's just hard to self-promote, right? How do we self-promote without sounding like we're bragging, and so on and so forth. So we'll touch upon that in the last part of the webinar. So with that, if you close out all of your windows, we are going to, okay, there we go. Okay, give me a second here. Sometimes it's like I told Evan, sometimes the slides do not want to move. All right, here's your activity. And Evan's going to help me read out the chat box responses. So if you can open up your little chat box area and think about one brand that you buy frequently and share with us why you love it so much, but in 3 words or less. 3 adjectives. I mean, if you need to use a phrase, fine. 3 words or less. Favorite brand and why you love it. So we'll wait for just a few seconds. And then Evan, if you're seeing chats and I'm not, which that may be the case, if you can read them out.
All right, I'm not seeing anything at the moment.
All right, come on, guys. Favorite brand, why do you buy it frequently? Why do you love it? 3 adjectives or less. I'm not going to tell you mine until you tell me yours. Come on, I get a lot of Apple, I get a lot of Amazon, I get a lot of Patagonia actually as a clothing brand too. Favorite brand, and then as you're thinking about this, also think about, well, why am I asking you to describe your brand and in 3 words or less, and how does that relate to you as a personal brand? Evan, any chat boxes? Any chat box responses?
I'm not seeing anything yet. If you have an idea, any thoughts at all, please type it in the chat window. Otherwise, Giselle's going to have to start making things up.
I am. Come on, guys. You can do it. All right. So someone tell me why they love Amazon. Here, I just gave you one. 3 words or less of why you buy on Amazon. Or Apple. Why do you love Apple? 3 words or less. Nothing?
I think we're having a user error here on my part. I've got a few things here now. Here we go. Topo Chico, because it's my favorite. Value and taste. Another is
okay.
Under Armour. Comfortable, fit, power.
Okay. I like those. What
Another
else, guys?
is store brand seltzer water. Inexpensive, good, and refreshing.
Ooh, I like these descriptions, everybody.
We have Smart
Any
Water.
others?
Good design.
Oh.
Light material, different bottle sizes.
Like it. I like it. Okay, then, with those examples, why am I asking you, how does this question relate to you as a personal brand? Why would I need to know what words I want people to use when they describe me as a personal brand? Why is that important? Share that in the chat box.
We have reputation.
Why is it important?
It allows us to see the perception, if perception matches reality. Memorability.
Yes. Good. Any other thoughts?
To build trust, another one came through, is engagement.
Great. Now, tell me yes or no, do you consider yourself a product? Are you also a product? So if you're a brand, are you also a product?
I'm seeing quite a few yeses pop in. And then a yes-ish.
Excellent. Yes-ish, okay. I will take that. So, one of the things that I'm not going to mention in this webinar, but it's in my book and it's also in the workbook also, is just to keep in mind that as you build your brand, as you build your personal brand, you need to see yourself as a product, just like these products that you love and that you have described. And those brand elements involve 5 different things, right? Your strengths, your values, your personality, your image, and in the middle of that is your brand promise. So putting that all together really makes up who you are as a brand, and you need to understand how people see you within those different elements, right? So, all right, let me try to change slides again. There we go. So let's talk about the 3 reasons why, as reminders for you of why having a personal brand is important. And let me, again, I'm doing my little arrow thing, and there we go. Okay. Wait, it went to the next slide. I'm having some technical issues with my slides here, but here we go. All right. First reason why having a personal brand is important. It defines what you stand for, right? So most of you already know that. Owning your personal brand reveals to the world who you are, what you believe in, and what you stand for. And the key to defining what you stand for and owning your brand is that you have to manage it on a daily basis. And I only ask for you to invest 15 minutes a day. If not, okay, I'll even go less. How about half an hour a week on managing your brand? And we'll talk about how you should be managing your brand on a daily basis. Two, why is it important to have a personal brand? You differentiate yourself from the competition, right? You provide others with a shortcut in their decision making. And in the chat box, really quickly, can someone tell me what that means? That you're providing others with a shortcut in their decision making when you have a strong personal brand. What does that mean to you? Any takers?
One person wrote in what added value you bring that others don't. Identity, and again, value you bring.
Right. So if you're a Safeway and you have a choice between two brands, which one's the one that you're going to be choosing, right? It's the one that you have clarity on what they bring, what kind of experience you've had with that product, right? What is it that you have brought to the table, right? So if Tide tells you that they take out stains, then as sure as heck, your experience better be that they took out those stains you needed, and you're probably going to go back to that, to that brand again. So whatever you're saying that you are and that you do is exactly how people are going to remember you, right? And as well as how well we promote ourselves on an ongoing basis, right? Because we always need to keep reminding folks about the good things that we do and that we bring to the table. Just like, again, a product has to continually advertise, you have to do the same thing. So we'll talk a little bit about that later in terms of how you do that in such a way where it's comfortable for you and it's authentic. And then lastly, having a strong personal brand helps explain your past, how your past fits into your present. So as your career changes, so does your brand. So building your personal brand statement is a way to help others understand how your past may fit into your present, right? I've been in marketing for 20 years, but I have worked in 4 or 5 different sectors: nonprofit, government, now higher education, private sector, right? So I need to be able to explain that experience and weave it all together so that they're not looking at necessarily the industry I'm in, or they're not looking at the titles, that I've had. They are focused on the value that I'm bringing based on all of that professional experience. But you have to be able to tie that together, and a personal brand statement is a perfect way to do that. Okay, let me try the slide moving again. All right. This is my favorite definition of a personal brand. Tom Peters is the godfather of personal branding. There's a variety of reading resources on the back of the workbook and also in the book. I would encourage you, if you want to take this personal brand journey, seriously, to read some other resources as well to give you a wider scope of how to manage your personal brand. But a personal brand basically is comprised of your character, competence, and charisma. And you know what? Research shows us that we make a first impression in 3 seconds. 3 seconds. That's how long it takes for the other person to basically have a first impression of us. And the first 2 things that they're really going to be considering is your character and your charisma. Your competence comes second, but you need to be able to start that conversation, right? And you need to be able to be succinct and extremely articulate as much as possible, so that you can gain that interest, so that they can learn more about you. And just sharing with them your job title is not interesting. So let me break that to everybody right now. Your job title does not represent your personal brand. I never tell people what my job title is, because my job title doesn't tell you that I'm on the leadership team for this organization. I'm the head of the department for the organization, right? My title is director of marketing for a community college district. That doesn't tell you anything. So I always talk about the value, the overall value, just like I had shared with you earlier with my brand statement. So keep that in mind. And lastly, the last sentence of you have to create it, claim it, and then make sure everyone in your network knows about it. Think about it. You're all managing your brand now, but my question to you is, how well are you managing it? How conscious are you of weaving in personal brand management into your daily activities? It could be as simple as making sure that your LinkedIn page is up to date with your awards and recognitions, or with a new headshot. Or it could be you had meetings with folks last week, or you're going to be at the conference. You're going to meet all kinds of people there. Invite them on LinkedIn, right? Become linked with them on LinkedIn. Send invitations to them. It could be as easy as that, or again, the ideal world is that you're going to be working on your personal brand statement ongoing, and you're going to be doing other things to be able to also help you communicate your value more clearly and more easily. So Tom Peters, look him up. 3 personal brand management strategies. So if you have your workbook, start to get that out now, because we're going to start to head into our activities. And again, I'm again looking for everyone to share their thoughts as we're doing the activities, and I will prompt you, with those questions. 3 personal brand management strategies, everybody. Number 1, planning. Know what you want, know where to get it. So where is it that you want to go next? What is it that you want to do? It could be that you want a new position within your department or in another company, or it could be that you want to meet someone in particular at the conference. So what is the plan, and who do you know that can help you get there as well? And part of that is helping these potential brand ambassadors, right? Helping them understand who you are, what your value is, so that they can also be your brand ambassadors to others. So that is really, really important. But you can't have your brand ambassadors, represent you if you can't communicate your value clearly to them. Second piece, assessment. Know who you are. That's mostly what we're going to focus on for the next 3 activities. So knowing who you are, what your values are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, how other people describe you. Expression and promotion, the last piece of it, which is Tom Peters' definition of creating it and claiming it and letting everybody in your network know about it. Know how and who you will share your personal brand with. And again, you're doing this on a daily basis, from your post on social media to how you communicate on email. So now the question is, how are you doing this consciously and strategically? How are you managing your brand consciously and strategically? So tell me via the chat box, there's 2 questions here. Do you think you have a credible personal brand? And part of answering those questions is you have some additional questions of, do you have a clear understanding of what you do and the value you bring? What words and concepts and ideas do people associate with you and your image? Tell me in the chat box if you have a clear understanding of who you are, and or even more important, do you know how other people describe you? What words do they use to describe you? And just be honest, maybe, no, yes. And then we're going to move into a task to help you better manage that. So any takers on that? Any thoughts?
So far, we have some people who have said yes and one person who has said no. And then some of the words that are being used are motivated, resilient, hard worker, assertive, good communicator, leadership. And then someone said an interesting comment that different people might have different words describing me.
Yes. Okay. That is very good, because you have different target audiences, right? However, there should be some themes that do cross over between your different networks and also target audiences. So then on that note, if you can tell us in the chat box whether you were able to start the personal brand assessment survey. And let me wait to hear if yeses or nos, or don't have it, didn't get it. If you can let us know, and then I can see how I can cater to this particular point here. So how many folks finished it?
We have a couple of yeses.
Okay, perfect. All right. And if you didn't do it, that's okay. Make sure that you download the handout that is called a Personal Brand Assessment Survey. And the purpose of the survey is to help you do specifically what I was mentioning in the other slide. It helps you reaffirm how other people see you with the 5 questions. I mean, actually, there's 16 questions in the workbook that you can choose from. So you can do a more robust survey if if you would like to do that. But just to get us started, there were five or six questions on the, on the survey that specifically asked people, what do you think my strengths are? What do you think my weaknesses are? How would you describe me? What words, would you use, and so on and so forth. So for those folks that did the survey, did you have any surprises with the survey assessment? Did you find that most people were describing you how you wanted to be described in terms of the words that they were using? So let's hear some of those answers.
One person said no surprises.
Okay, good. So that means you're being consistent with your brand.
Most people were consistent on their description and yes on the brand I represent. And another person also said no surprises.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, then you guys are doing something right. So that's excellent. So you can mentor others. Sometimes what happens in these surveys, and this is why we need to have that. This is why we need to do this work first before we start to really assess our own brand. Is sometimes we want to be known as a leader, but all of the comments that we receive back just say that we're a great project manager, or that we're really organized, and those are actually real, workshop feedback from folks that did their surveys. And so now we have to figure out, if we want to be known as a leader, but we're known for these other things that we don't want to necessarily be known for, then how do we change our personal brand strategy, the expression part, the third strategy, so that we can help them see us as leaders, right? What things do I have to take on? How do I have to promote myself so that I'm seen as a leader? Or sometimes people respond to the survey and they tell us about these new strengths that they see us having, but we don't have. And this tends to happen to women a lot. Where, as an example, another real example, this I get often. Women do these surveys, Latinx women do these surveys, and folks always say that they're really good communicators, and that it usually tends to be a surprise to those women. I didn't realize that I was a great communicator. So sometimes, again, we undervalue our skills and our strengths as well. Sometimes that's cultural, sometimes that's also gender related. But either way, what happens with that information is that now we can really start to not only incorporate that into our mindset that, yeah, I am a good communicator. Why am I not, right? And then start to also incorporate that into how we describe and communicate our own value as well. So tell me in the chat box if you found the survey helpful while I move into the next slide here. And I'm going to go back really quickly.
There are several yeses. And we also had, Giselle, a few people mentioned what you were just talking about, how there weren't surprises, but they may have wanted their perception to be shifted slightly, or they may have wanted other words to have come to the forefront sooner than they did, or may have been top of people's minds rather than what were top of their minds.
Perfect. That's excellent. So there may be some work we have to do, right, to get folks to use or to have them describe us in the way we want quicker, right? But that's okay. That's all good work for us to do, because if you didn't know that, you wouldn't be able to address it. So that's excellent. Excellent. If you turn to your workbook to page 4, so this is our first exercise, is building your persona. So part of personal brand strategy, the personal brand management strategy number 2 assessment, is we have to build our persona, we have to build out our brand promise, but we build that out through the survey data that we have received. So if you were able to do the survey and you have that data in front of you, there's 2 pages of questions. So there's 8 questions on page 4 and 5. Answer those questions in the next, and this is again drinking through a fire hose here, in the next 30 seconds. Answer as many questions as you can, and feel free to use the data that you received from the survey as part of the survey. So Evan, I'm just going to count down to 30. So once the 30 seconds are up, I'll just say stop, and then we'll go to the next activity. So if you can get started now, and hopefully, and if you can't find the page or if you have any issues, if you can just let us know in the chat box, that would be great. But let's get started. So timing starts now. And I know 30 seconds is not realistic, but at least it gives you a sense of the questions that you're going to be asking yourself as you continue this work. Hint, hint. And just as a reminder that part of building your persona is that it helps describe who you are, the qualities that make you you, and it helps you better articulate your own attributes, your characteristics, your vision, and your values. But sometimes we don't spend the time in truly answering these questions, not only answering them, but writing them down. Those are two distinct exercises, which then will inform your personal brand statement. Okay, I think we have about 10 seconds left. Yeah, maybe, Evan, we should have had prizes for who can finish all the questions in 30 seconds. Okay, pencils down, or pens, or laptops. Tell me in the chat box if this exercise, at least looking at the questions, I know you weren't able to get through all of them, but in looking at the questions, do you find that they're going to be easy to answer? Were they easy to answer? So just share your thoughts. Easy, not easy, maybe.
A few easies have just come through.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. No maybes, no hards.
No, but we do have a note that it would be great to have the time to think about.
Oh, are you there, Evan? Are you? So I think I can hear you now. Can you?
Yes, so someone did come through with a not easy just then, so we have had a separate question, a separate comment.
Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. And usually when we do this activity, I mean, yes, you definitely need more time for this. I mean, again, this is a webinar of just content for 1 hour. Normally, this could be a 4-hour workshop and it's still not enough time. So normally this tends to be the harder section of these activities, because answering these questions, for ourselves, again, tends to be something we kind of instinctively know, but we've never done the exercise of writing them down. So let's go to the next section. Oh, actually, here's my little funny moment for you. So take a look at this little cartoon. Part of building your personal brand is finding your common voice, right? So the theme of this cartoon is, according to your LinkedIn profile, you're a focused, disciplined achiever. According to your Facebook photos, you love Jack Daniels and are pretty comfortable with your body. And it's the employer talking to the prospective employee, right? So hopefully that's not happened to you, but that's just something for you to keep in mind, right? As you manage your personal brand, how are you being consistent online and offline in all of those channels? And that includes how you're describing your brand, what words you're using, including what are the things that you're doing in the community, right? There has to be some consistency. And this could be just as simple as maybe somebody, maybe people know you as Jose, but online you're Joe, and you don't have a picture of, your headshot on LinkedIn. So how am I to know who am I talking to? Is it Jose or Joe that I know? And then your picture's not even on there. So find your common voice as you create your persona. Next, build your promise. The workbook, page 7. What is your unique value? How does someone benefit from working with you? What sets you apart? Work on this, 30 seconds, and then the same thing. Tell us if it's easy, hard, or other thoughts. Go. And again, remember, the brand promise is that fifth element of your brand, of your personal brand elements. And again, part of this is not just your title. Your title doesn't mean anything to me. What is it that sets you apart? How do people benefit from working with you? What are the values that you bring, the strengths? Okay, I think I'm over my 30 seconds. All right, pencils down. Thoughts on this one? Just, again, a general overview of those questions. Thoughts, easy, hard?
We have an easy with an exclamation point.
All
Easier,
right.
another attendee said.
Most of the time, the participants feel that this section is easier than the first section. And I think most of the time it's because we spend more time probably figuring out who we are in the workplace or as, professionals versus personally. But as you know, it's all tied together, and we need to be able to build out common themes and be able to describe that value. Any other comments?
So that is it for the moment.
Okay. All right, let's move forward to building your personal brand statement. This is your takeaway. Can you write up 3 sentences or less, a personal brand statement that communicates who you are, something that reflects your personal reputation, and where you can use on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, or just verbally as a statement to summarize in just a few words who you are and the value you offer. And I gave you my personal brand statement at the very beginning of the webinar, and I even added what one of my passions is. You don't necessarily need to say that verbally as you introduce yourself to folks, but I just wanted to give you a sense of that's how I describe myself in writing, and then I just tweak it verbally where necessary. So for you, what I want you to think about as you build your personal brand statement is this cartoon, okay? So it's a consultant talking to 2 cows, and the consultant says, okay, yes, you're a cow, but you're also a dairy consultant, an expert on calcium, and a hay connoisseur to boot. So think about that. Again, back to my point that don't introduce yourself to folks with your title, unless, obviously it comes up or they ask you, but you are more than just your title, right? You are more than just this one thing. You are, what else do you have and do you do where you can build it into these 3 sentences that equals your personal brand statement. So just like the cow, they're more than just a cow. They're consultants, they're experts on calcium, and they're experts on hay. Did you ever see cows that way, right? So now when you see a cow, just remember that they're more than just a cow, and they have a personal brand statement. So as you build your personal brand statement, think of your audience for the conference, right? Who's your target audience? And as you build out your brand statement, think about the value that you bring, your product promise. And as part of building your product promise, what's your product as part of your value? So as part of what you do right now as a professional, what's the product? So if you're a project manager, what does that mean, right? How do you differentiate not only what you're doing, but also how does that benefit the other person? So I gave you my personal brand statement at the very beginning. This is just an example again of what I said earlier, but I'm going to move to the next slide. So page 10, it's your turn to write your brand statement. And here is your formula on how to do that. So 1 to 3 sentences that communicates where you incorporate your value, so what you're best at, your audience, and your promise. How you perform that value uniquely, right? And so you can do it. Now, start this off. This is just a draft. It could be 5 sentences to start, and then you can start to narrow it down to 3 sentences. It takes some work. Now, you may have something on LinkedIn already as well as part of your summary, as part of your about section. You can use that as your foundation as well, and you can start to narrow that down and to revise it as well, including when you're talking about the value that you bring, what are the words that people were using in the survey to describe you, to describe your strengths? And if those resonate with you, how can you incorporate that into your brand statement? So, Evan, let's give them a minute. How generous, right? To see how far you can get in writing something down, even if it's just put down some bullet points, and that will get you started. So let's get started now on that. 1 minute. And then I'm going to ask you to share out your thoughts or how far you got. And I'm not going to talk here, so we'll have a minute of silence so you can focus. Okay, about 30 seconds. I'm still here, just looking at the clock. And I'll give you another 10 seconds. And pencils down. All right. Again, I know this is not enough time, so, but let's get some first impressions of who has a personal brand statement already that they now feel like they can just tweak based on this new knowledge. So let's start with that question first.
And while we're waiting for people to answer that question, Giselle, would you mind sharing your statement with everyone again?
Yes, let me go back to this slide. So I help organizations and individuals communicate their value and achieve success through enduring marketing and personal branding strategies. Okay, so that tells you right there that I'm in marketing, and that I also do personal branding, and that I help individuals and organizations, right? I did not put myself in the box in terms of what organization that I wanted to be a part of, right? In terms of my target audience. Then I'm going to share with you what my product is, right? As a marketer, where I'm experienced in leading successful multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns, and I provide guidance to my employers that is relevant, data-driven, and results-oriented. So most people need to put other people in a bucket, right? Okay, so this person's a marketer and they're successful at X, right? So you need to think about it in that sense. And sometimes I know we have these odd positions where we do a variety of different things, but you still need to put it in such a way where HR, especially can put you in a box. So then they can then be able to understand how to relate to you and what questions to ask. So thoughts on this exposure. So let me expand my question then. So who was able to write something out in the one whole minute that you had to think about this and work on this? And if you did, share it with us.
We've had one attendee say they have a partial statement ready. Another person said they need to tweak theirs. Here's a statement we have from one of our attendees. As a creative professional who is also tech savvy, I offer innovative solutions to solve your company problems to help you build a profitable business.
Okay, good. That is very good. And if you want to connect with me offline, I can give you a tip or two. One of them, would be just to be a little bit more clear on what that product is. So maybe with an example or two examples or such, but that's very good, very quick. And I got it quickly. Any others? Any other thoughts? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. This is part of sharing. This is part of learning from others. Sometimes when we read others, then we get ideas for ours, right? If not, again, I will share with you my contact info at the end, and I'll be happy to read your personal brand statement and give you feedback. I do that all the time after my workshops and webinars. Sometimes you just need someone else to help you narrow it down.
So here is
Any
a
other thoughts, Evan?
partial, yeah, here's a partial statement, and someone has said this is as far as they've gotten, but I bring out the best in other people and the team I'm on.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. So if you connect with me offline, though, I can help you, uh, weave that into a longer statement where I'm going to ask you to think about what is your product? What's the product? What's the value that you're bringing through the product that you're producing as part of your professional experience? That's great. Any other thoughts there, Evan? If not, we're going to move to the next section.
We have one more that came through. I strive to connect, serve, and empower people and organizations to improve the lives of others, especially underserved communities.
Okay, good. And then for you, again, also, this is always the tricky part with the personal brand statement is that's great, but now tell me what the product is that you're producing. So are you helping students? So just as an example, are you helping students get connected to internships? Is that how you are doing this other thing, right? What is the product that you're doing as part of this overall statement? Okay, so that would be my question back. Any others?
Yes, we have another one. As an experienced analyst with a demonstrated history of working in strategy consulting, I have worked on providing strategic recommendations to Fortune 500 companies in both high-tech and telecommunication industries.
Ooh, perfect. I know exactly what you do and your value and your audience. Perfect. And it doesn't have to be any longer than that. Good job. And again, just also to reiterate, this takes work, this takes time, and even if you feel like you have a perfect brand statement today, you should always be looking at it and revising it. I revise mine at least twice a year because sometimes the spirit moves me with a new word that I feel that I want other people to now describe me and that, with that particular word, right? And it's okay because you learn every day, you learn something new about your brand. If you're managing it strategically, you're going to be learning new things, not only about your brand, but also you're going to be gaining new strengths as well. So what you write down today, how you say it today, can easily change next week, next month, and that's okay. That's what you should be doing. So if there aren't any others, Evan?
Nope, that is it for now.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for participating in that exercise. I know it's not easy having a minute to write that out, but I know you guys can do it. And again, I'm available offline to help you with that. Third personal brand strategy is expression. How do you promote your brand, right? One of those ways is using your brand statement. The other way is going to be applying these promotional tactics that we're going to talk about in just a second. And every day you guys are building brand ambassadors. You have brand ambassadors all around you throughout the, Prospanica chapters, the people that you're going to be meeting. Everyone you meet could be a potential brand ambassador. And those are the people that are going to say something good about you when you're not in the room, right? They're going to be your advocates for you to be on projects, for you to perhaps be able to get an interview with the company that you want. You're building brand ambassadors every day. So be aware that everything you do is going to be recorded by that prospective brand ambassador. So how and where do you promote your brand? You guys are doing all of this already. I mean, all of these things aren't necessarily new ideas. And this list is also on page 15 in the workbook. But as an example, you're going to be attending a conference in 2 weeks, right? Or, some of you may. And if you haven't, Evan wants you to register ASAP. But what are you going to do as part of, promoting your brand at that conference? Perhaps you can, especially if you're presenting at the conference, how are you going to let others know about what you're learning, what you're sharing at the conference? On LinkedIn, can you let others know about the subject matter expertise that you may be sharing at the workshop, right? If you're attending a conference, how about taking a few pictures with new people that you've met and helping promote their brand, perhaps, right? Not necessarily yours, but how about promoting their brand as well? So there's many other ways that you could promote your brand, but specifically for this conference, start thinking about how you can be present in that moment and really think through what your promotional strategy is going to look like for that. And definitely, and there's opportunities at all places. Again, there's professional development sessions. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities too, where you can use your brand statement, right, as part of your introductions. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date, guys, and that you have a headshot as well, a nice headshot, not you and your dog, on your LinkedIn. Not that some of you would, but you'd still be surprised at this day and age of some of the pictures that are the headshots on LinkedIn. Make sure you have that up to date before you go, because guess what? I look people up on LinkedIn, either before I meet them or after I meet them, and especially if I'm going to send them a LinkedIn invitation as well. So think about what your strategy is for the conference and how you're going to present and manage your brand there. How do you promote yourself without feeling like you're bragging? So this can be just, this alone, challenges on, promoting oneself can be a 4-hour workshop. However, I think there's 2 points that I want to make, with this topic. One is there's some gender and cultural differences that we have to be aware of. Some of it is that as part of our, Latinx culture and heritage, and I'm generalizing here, not everybody has been brought up this way, but some of us have been taught to be humble, don't compete, mijo, just work hard and people will notice the good work you do. I mean, how many times, have we not heard that, right? Well, that's not true, right? That doesn't happen. So we have to learn. And then also as women, we tend to be more risk averse. Sometimes it's just harder for us to go out on a limb and even apply for jobs sometimes, because maybe we don't have all 10 of the job responsibilities as part of our experience. And men tend to look at that differently, and they say, well, I have 5 out of 10, so I'm going to apply. But a woman says, I only have 5 out of the 10, so they don't apply. So that's where we're a little bit more risk averse and taking chances on ourselves, and we undervalue our skills. So how do you self-promote without bragging? You have to remember that if you're going to self-promote, you want to make sure that you are providing benefit to the other party. So as an example, I'm going to tell Evan, who I work with, hey, Evan, guess what? We had a really successful marketing campaign on blah, blah, blah product. And we tried out some new ideas. I know that you're going to be working on a project that's similar to that. I'm happy to share with you all of our best practices for it. So just let me know. So, how does that feel, right? I let Evan know that what I managed, what I led was very successful, and that I'm happy to share all that good information with him now, right? So I let him know that I'm good at something, it was successful, and now in turn, how can I help you? So that's a very strategic way of self-promotion. We have opportunities for that on a daily basis. We just have to really think about it and be strategic. And there's other ways as well, and that's in the book, where you can take advantage of different opportunities throughout the year, or through different activities to also self-promote. But it takes practice, everybody. It takes practice, and it takes self-awareness of our gender and cultural differences, so that when we tell ourselves not to do something, we need to rethink it and learn how to be strategic about that self-promotion. So normally I would ask for questions and feedback on this, but we don't have time. So I really encourage you to read more about that in the book. And it's my favorite chapter name, which is Self-Promotion Without Guilt. It is doable. Believe me, it is. So this is a picture of Murphy, who's very smart. One of my other passions is being a pit bull breed advocate. And Murphy says that life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Well, Murphy says he said it, but maybe it was George Bernard Shaw. One of the two. I don't know. But either way, you need from today on, the question that you need to ask yourself is, how have I managed my brand today? What have I done for my brand today? And it's about creating, right, who you are. Because if you don't do that, other people are already doing it, right? You already know that. But let me just remind you that other people already have a sense of who your brand is, and you need to ensure that it either jives with what you want that to be, or you need to change it. So our takeaways, 3 things. Number 1, set aside 15 minutes per day to weave brand management into your daily activities. Every time you go into a meeting, every time you end your day, think about, what have I done for my brand today? or what can I do for my brand during this meeting, right? Again, learning how that can be done in an authentic and original manner. Get a professional headshot. If you haven't done that, please do that. Use it throughout your online and offline resources where you are showcasing your brand, your bio. So, whatever that may be. And write your personal brand statement. Write it. Practice it out loud. That needs to come naturally out of your mouth so that the more you say it, the more you practice it, obviously the more natural it's going to be, and you're going to start to use those words even in other conversations as well. And my website address is below the slide there, so GiselleNunez.com. My email is in there, and other information as well for other workshops and the book and all kinds of other good stuff. So with that said, so we have 3 minutes, Evan. Should we open it up for like 1 or 2 questions?
We can give it a shot.
Okay, guys, 1 or 2 questions. Actually, so let me have a question for you. If you can come, if you need a little help, what did you find useful about this webinar today? What are you going to start doing today as part of your takeaway?
One person wrote, breaking down the elements of what makes your personal brand is what was useful.
Great. What's the one thing that you're going to do right after this webinar is over as part of your takeaways?
Someone has said they've ordered the book and they are excited to leverage everything that you have provided.
Great, and it's an easy read, but it does take a little long to do the workbook. But we have to perhaps give ourselves a career spa day, as I call it, so we can really work on starting the personal brand journey.
Another participant said they're going to start thinking about what their brand is and the projection of their brand. Another person's first step is to connect to you on LinkedIn. And someone else appreciated the personal brand exercise that allowed her to get perceptions of different people within her network. We have one more that came through, which is the next step is to spend time really thinking about how to make my personal brand more precise.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Everybody was doing the work. Excellent. So I think if we don't have any other comments, Evan, I think I can close.
Yes.
By just close my piece by again saying I'm just really excited for all of you to take this to take this journey of how to manage your personal brand. Again, I'll make myself available to help you offline with your personal brand statement. For those of you that read the book and go through the workbook, I'm again also happy to help you with any questions that you may have throughout that process and that journey. But I hope that you're all going to be writing your personal brand statements and that you're going to be practicing them and you're going to be using them at the conference. So with that said, thank you. And don't forget to ask yourself, what have I done for my brand today? Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Giselle. And thank you to everyone who has joined us. I do want to say a couple of things very quickly before we close out the webinar. First of all, if you are coming to the conference, you do have 13 days to work on those brand statements. So please put that time in to make the best use of your experience at the event. We do want to remind you the event starts on Wednesday with those breakout sessions. If you are thinking about the networking is happening Thursday at the Career Expo, you're missing out on a full day of times when you can be sharing who you are and the work you do and what your value is to other leaders and potential future employers. And finally, we have a survey that will come up once you leave the webinar. So please fill that out. It won't take but a couple of minutes, and every bit of feedback we read and we think about, and it helps us and will help Giselle provide even more accurate and specific programming. And so we look forward to receiving your feedback. Once again, Giselle, thank you so much for the time and energy you put into this. And thank you for making yourself available to the attendees. We look forward to seeing all of you in 13 days in Orlando, Florida. Have a great rest of your day.